This will be interesting. It's the first time I've actually talked extensively about my failed business. I'm pretty excited.
Well, that's good. That's why.
Oh wow, you brought someone with failures? Yes. It's my favorite.
That's the point.
I feel like before we start, we should address the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Which is our podcast went live.
Yeah.
Now that's
we
got
live.
some reviews out there.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. I read some of them.
Yeah.
I read
some of
two.
them were personally embarrassing. It's almost like my brother-in-law wrote them.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Who eats their steak with ketchup? I want to know that. Like, it really deeply
well
offended
done
me.
and
Wait,
then
somebody does
with
that?
ketchup.
Who does that?
No, I was some anonymous reviewer with the name of my brother-in-law wrote that I liked my steak well done and with ketchup.
That's really funny.
I felt like
Yeah, he did.
I felt like pulling a Donald Trump and just going tweet storm. Like,
The more defensive you get about that, the more incriminating it looks on you. You need to let it go.
I don't use ketchup at all.
I hate ketchup. Never once used ketchup.
all true. But yeah, we have reviews now because we have a podcast and people are listening to it.
Yeah.
And part of the reviews is it's a good chance for us to see what you're thinking and good chance to help make the show we all want to be part of. So thanks guys out there for doing that.
There was another review on there that said we have to mention the board game Risk or they're going to leave us a 1-star review. So I feel obligated to bring that up.
Well done. Because we listen to our customers.
We do.
We are
responsive.
So that's good.
So you check the risk box. That's good.
Check the risk box.
You guys have really been over backwards for your people.
Yeah.
Happy for you.
You know, I've noticed that the key to a good game of Risk is Kamakacha.
Oh yeah, because then you're right next to Alaska and you can get.
You can pivot into Asia, which is a bold strategy. It's really hard to hold over a long period of time.
It is.
That's Japan.
Or it can be just like no man's land between Asia and the U.S., which is where it really should be. Or there's that really like sneaky Australia play where you just start down there and then you move up the coast.
I'm notoriously known for that play.
Yeah.
So at home, whenever we play, I will do. There's an ongoing joke that the man who controls Australia wins the game.
Yeah.
And so we kept arguing about we keep fighting over Australia. And my sister got Australia like last week. And I was like, well, the man who controls Australia wins the game. Good thing you're not a man. And no, she still whooped our ass. So,
well, the sneaky thing about Australia too is you can like let everybody else fight it out because it's not that threatening of a country. It's like when they get coronavirus, they like lock everything down. Nobody misses them, but all of a sudden, like nobody dies there either.
Yeah.
You might have listeners in Australia that will find that offensive.
Oh man.
Did you try to say "oh man" in Australian accent? You did, didn't you?
I did. You know, sometimes you got to try things, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it just doesn't.
That's a perfect segue into
your name.
My name?
Yes. Before we segue into anything else, let's start with your name.
Welcome to Risk Profile. Who are you?
You want me to, you really want to say my name?
Yes.
No, it's better we say it, but we don't really know it. So
okay. My name is John Simmons.
Oh, okay.
That's my name.
John Simmons.
Yeah.
So John Simmons, how do you know Mark?
I went to high school with Mark. Mark is 2 years older than me, actually my sister's age. And so Mark was way too cool for me in high school. There was no way he was ever going to talk to me then. So I just waited till we were adults to be friends with him.
He got less cool, so now you caught up. Is that what happened?
John, I don't think our memories of my high school experience are the same. I distinctly remember video gaming shirtless with the deer skin. Do you remember that?
Yeah, it just that is something that I purposely blocked out of my memory, and now that you say it again, I have to go talk to somebody.
Don't worry, we'll cut it out of the podcast. Maybe
if I start crying mid podcast, you'll know why.
Yeah, I was not in the cool crowd in high school.
Yeah, Mark's always marched to the beat of his own drum, but I think that's pretty evident from the people that know him now. But no, anyways, I've known Mark since high school. Really since I was in middle school. They hopped over from homeschool to Second Baptist. So, you know, it's better than going straight from homeschool to public school, I guess. So it was a good gap bridger to real life for everyone. I'm just joking. I'm sure. He's always been the way he is now, very extroverted, but also technically driven as well. So, but I really graduated high school with his brother, Ben, who also works in oil and gas too.
Yeah.
So.
And we're here because you've had like a bunch of different experiences throughout life.
Yeah.
Most recently starting a CrossFit gym, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about your experiences there. We have set out in this podcast to not only document successes and document starts and document, the process of starting a company, but part of that is also when the startups don't work out. When you go through a try and you're kind of in between that try and a try again, maybe. And I'm interested and kind of curious to unpack what it was like for you and what your thoughts are on your CrossFit gym and kind of what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. So I haven't had I haven't given myself the real opportunity to kind of look back and deflate on this. It was going to be a really interesting time for me just to kind of talk through my experience. So I'm pretty excited to kind of unpack this real time with you guys. So I guess the best place to start is the beginning.
Ooh.
That's good, because a lot of movies these days start in the middle and it pisses me off every time. It's like, who is this guy and why is he here?
No, we're not going to do that.
And that's not because I showed up an hour late. It's because of
no,
the
we're not going
movie.
to jump in the middle and I'll say 3 years earlier. We're going to start right at the beginning. Let's just call it 2014. Created the LLC. Just before that, I was a coach at a CrossFit gym, and that is it. During that time, I realized that the only way you could actually make a living doing CrossFit is if you own it. So I set out to kind of do that. And so first place to go when you want to start a business, if you don't have money, is to find money to start a business, right? So I met with several people to pick up some funding, and eventually landed with a couple partners and then myself, bringing in equity together. The reasoning behind the partnership was to take away any liabilities off myself, and B, some like-minded guys that would have the ability to kind of recruit people to come to the gym as well. So there was a double edge there, because there was an opportunity for me to do things with just very expensive money to pay back, or with some partners. And I felt like partnership was the best way to go. Some like-minded people that are aligned, that aren't necessarily there for day to day, but are there in other ways. And so
it's super important when you're starting something, even just to have friends doing things with you.
Yes. And I found that to be a great way for me to, sometimes you need venting, and those are the right people to do that with. So, started the company, went and, we're talking with no experience on anything except for the
actual workouts
type of thing. So from there, it's like, well, what do you do next? You have your funding. Well, you got to get a place. You got to figure out LLC docs, all of that. And so for me, it was just, without really any formal education, it was educating myself on those things. And the good thing about the internet is you can do that very easily. And
so sorry, when you say no formal education, did you go to college?
Yeah, we can take another step back. So really, let's take a step from before the beginning. Okay. I graduated high school. I went to Baylor for a year, and Baylor and I both decided it was not the best place for me to be.
Both decided.
Wait, who wrote the Dear John letter?
It was a mutual decision. We don't need to go into too much detail about. I was really good at the social aspect of college.
Nice.
And I was not very good at
college,
like the actual valuable part of college.
It's a lesson we all face ourselves with at some point.
Right. But growing up in an atmosphere where there was not a necessity to do a whole lot of work, I did not apply myself the way I should have applied myself. And so from there, it was like, okay, we got to cut John off because he is not focused. And my thought was, I can do things myself. I'm going to go to Austin. I'm going to figure it out. I washed golf carts. I was a bouncer for a little while on 6th Street. floated around here and there, taking care of myself. And I've discovered that I wanted more than what I was just working towards right there, which was nothing, just kind of paycheck to paycheck. So really it was, if you put in the work, then I felt like good things would happen. And so moved back to Houston, started coaching in a CrossFit gym, started trying to figure out what I wanted to do with myself. I felt that entrepreneurship was the best route for me without, a formal education, without the ability to go in and add value to somebody else. It was like, well, I can add
based
value
on
to
your
myself.
credentials.
Based on my credentials, right? Yeah. And if I don't know how to do something, I'm a smart person, I can figure it out. And that was my thought process there. Along with, other smart people around me. Don't get me wrong. No one can do anything by themselves. That's not what I'm trying to say. From there, it was like I said, we started the business.
So wait, what? You were in Austin? Was the gym in Austin or was the gym in Houston?
No, the gym was based in Houston.
Okay, so you were in Austin, did some random jobs, figured out life a little bit, decided I want to take the gym route, became a trainer.
Right. So I moved back to Houston.
Gotcha.
Started working out at CrossFit, and it was actually just to stay in shape for rugby at the time. I was playing rugby pretty competitively at the time.
I bet I could take you in rugby.
There's a good chance. There's a really good chance at this point. From there, I started the gym, and hold on, I'm taking myself back several years. Started the gym, and once the gym got going, we were, the goal at my gym was to be different from other CrossFit gyms and not be focused on the type of person that people associate with CrossFit, which is someone that's stacked and jacked, and that's all they do.
The CrossFit Paleo Tourette's, CrossFit Paleo. CrossFit.
Yes.
Paleo.
The goal was not to be a CrossFit gym that's all we talked about was CrossFit. So the goal here was to build a community of people that are like-minded, that wanted to be healthy, but also that's not what we live and breathe, was just fitness. So we set out to kind of accomplish that through some relationships, and we found a lot of success the first few months. So we were in the black by month 2. After opening doors, which was, we were very fortunate for that. And the growth was real for me. And so I was seeing some monetary success pretty quickly, which was very
able to pay yourself salary and all that kind of stuff.
Able to pay myself after 2 months of operations. And then,
nice.
Decided that, within the walls of a gym, especially with group classes, you see a pretty hard cap as far as what you can do, right? So I reached out to some businesses to see if we could collaborate on some sort of corporate wellness, and we were fortunate enough to get a corporate wellness account with an offshore driller at their headquarters here in Houston, and so we did that, and that made the business very profitable for a while. And then I made the biggest mistake I ever made as a business owner, which was to expand the physical location in ways that I should not have expanded, right? Rapid expansion.
But you're at this problem, right? Growth is a problem in business because you have to change, or you feel the need to change and maybe evolve the business to match the current situation. So things are going really well. You're crushing it. Your next thought is, let's just do more of that. What is the thought process?
Yeah, the thought process was, well, let's accommodate for this growth.
Yeah.
And we have this growth externally from the gym, which was the corporate wellness account. And then we also had the growth internally, which we were at a 3,000 square feet. We felt you could feel the growth. We were swelling. We had to cap class sizes. We had to, accommodate, change up how we did workouts. And I felt that the program suffered because of that. When in actuality, everyone was totally fine with it. Right. Yeah. And it was one thing, to have expectations, but the reality was things were great. And so I decided to take on a massive build out for over 8,000 square foot space, take it on myself. And then thought, well, if I build it, they're going to keep coming, right? That's just what happens. I found that I spread myself pretty thin, and in a relationship driven business where it relies on your interactions with people, and without hiring I had great coaches. Without hiring the right people in the right places, I was unable to accommodate for that growth because I can't be everywhere at once. And so that's another mistake I made, was the putting people in the right places when you do have that growth, right?
So you're at a 3,000 square foot gym. What does that look like? What's the day in the life of a gym owner?
Wake up at 4:30.
That's in the afternoon.
A.M. You do your.
There's an A.M.
You have coffee and breakfast, and the first class is at 5:30 a.m. Coach a few classes in the morning because you can't give those away to someone. You can't. It's hard to have a coach that wants to coach that early, right?
Yeah. And
so, my business, my responsibility, I'm going to do it. And we had great attendance at those early morning classes. Some of our highest performing individuals go to those early morning classes. Some people I still talk to this day. And so we had those early morning classes. After that, I would work out, and then I would hoof it over to the corporate account. Had 3 classes middle of the day. I would make sure I spend time over there with those people, then hoof it back to the gym for the afternoon classes. And then I'm done by 7 p.m. And that was a typical Monday through Friday type thing. And, like I said, having more than one of me would have been ideal, but it's hard when you don't have skin. Putting someone that has actual skin in the game. We brought that on a few times, and it's just
like you structure their contracts so that they
incentive-based type stuff. But it's tough in an industry with, like in fitness, the margins are pretty thin, and there's not once you grow, there's not a whole lot of money within a gym. And so it's tough to really have someone see a long career out of it unless it's theirs. And I totally understand that. And so the best way for me personally to have done that growth wasn't to expand. It was to operate within cash flow where we are and enjoy that we're very successful within what we were. Unless I would have had more people that I could grow with on other projects to fund what they wanted to do, and have separate gyms based on that, I think would have been the better route to go.
Interesting. So in hindsight, say you were to do this over again, and you have this successful gym, 3,000 square feet, you're crushing it, but you want to expand the business. Are you saying now the next gym would have not been CrossFit, would have been Soul Cycle or something like that? Or are you saying it would have been like a different approach? Or are you saying something more like, oh, this person, call this person Harris, wants to do a gym completely different. Let's build it around his idea.
That's a good question.
And I'll help.
I am a believer that you should invest in what you know and what works for you. And so what works.
So you wouldn't even hire me. Yeah, got it.
That's right. Yeah. So what works well for us is the group classes, and we call it CrossFit, but it's really a fitness class, right? I mean, and I was never the most technically, I didn't go to school for kinesiology. That wasn't my strong suit. We had people there that were very good with that. I think the most important thing to keep people moving in a fitness environment that's a group class environment is people wanting to be there, and people, taking time out of their day because it's what they enjoy doing. And I think building a community is the best way to go about that. And so having someone like-minded enough that would want to do that is what you should do. And for me in that world. Now I could be, some gyms do things differently, and they do a very good job of what they do. And that's just speaking from my experience. I think having a relationship-driven approach to fitness, especially in a group setting, is the best way to keep people moving.
Gotcha. So now you've expanded to this new location.
Mm-hmm.
You guys build it out, go live. Now what?
Now we have our same client base. Feels like we have some juju that keep going in the right direction, right? We're at between 150 and 200 clients at this time. And at this point, I'm bringing people on. I'm trying to take a little step back so that I'm not spreading myself too thin. I keep finding that to be an impossible task. I have, some things in my life that are happening that are requiring me to pull back from the gym itself. And the client base suffers. And we start dropping in numbers, and it's hard to absorb those drops when you have just done this whole build out that you paid cash for, that we had a stockpile of cash, spent it on a build out that 4 air conditioning units. We had, it was probably the nicest CrossFit gym you can think of, right? When your idea of CrossFit
it was a
gym.
really nice space.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You were there towards the end of it.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah.
I forgot you were there. And so, couple showers, locker rooms, all that sort of fun stuff. And it just, we could have taken a hit. I could have taken a huge hit on the smaller space that was more operating within what we should have been doing, right? But because I expanded, didn't account for personal life events. I didn't account for things that you should account for when you expand, right? You just think, oh, things are going to keep going up the way they are. And that's just not how you should approach things. That's a huge learning experience for me, was to not expand, not overshoot for something when you don't have to. Because I think I really had the right mixture of things with that.
Kind of play your game type thing.
That was the right game. Should have stayed in my lane. Sorry, go ahead.
So you expand, and now you've lost some clientele. You've burned a lot of cash.
Mm-hmm.
This goes under, right? So when does it go under?
Okay, so it just didn't go under until COVID. COVID was the nail in the coffin. So the corporate wellness account, because that's where a lot of the money came from, I was able to prop up even the larger space with the corporate account to keep it break even, but also keeping some great clients that we had at the gyms. The people that were left were really the glue in the fabric that some people there that are just amazing people that, some great relationships there. But the issue was, we were able to prop it up with the corporate account, and then we get furloughed because it's hard to have group classes when there's no place to hold group classes
or a group
in an office or a group to have those classes.
Yeah.
We were lucky enough, it's not the product itself that diminished, because we went in and out of Chapter 11 with this group. They never missed a payment on us to us. So that was nice. And the issue was just not having a space to work out with. And technically, we're still furloughed, but I don't see it coming back anytime soon, if at all. And that's unfortunate. But in retrospect, we don't expand to the new space or the larger space. We're still operating right now, and we're still going. I think it's really what it came down to.
How does it feel? Like describe how it feels when you're going like this and you start to round that corner and your trajectory isn't growing anymore, but you are you then diving in to try to save it? Is it kind of is what it is, and you just make adjustments along the way? Like, what was your mind like?
There's definitely some overcompensation in some areas. So there's some panic, right? You're so used to this, you think it's the normal, right? And I can equate that to this is technically a part of an oil and gas podcast. Remember what leasehold was like 3 years ago? So
leasehold is the right to drill an area of land.
That's right.
And this was growing because you had a new field that was being discovered, and so a lot of land that needed to be drilled and therefore needed to be
right.
leased.
And so it was leased, and then it became overvalued, right? And so you're thinking, okay, this is great.
Very hot.
This is the normal.
Yeah.
Right. This is what we do, and it's impossible not to make money here because we're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And in actuality, we grew too fast. We spent too much money on something that we thought was going to be amazing because we're going based off the last, a small amount of data, right? And then
and you're talking about the industry.
I'm talking about me right now.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the new space, but it also is correlated to the industry itself, where we we expanded and then spent all that money, and then we realized that what we had within our actual cash flow was perfect.
So this is really what drives my own takeaway from my business. We were very fortunate to sell to a strategic acquirer January right before COVID.
Right.
Had that not happened, I don't know that I'm not sitting in your chair talking about, what could have happened with my company. There's the journey of entrepreneurship is so fragile in a lot of ways. And in a lot of ways, like obviously some things are in your control. A lot of it's maybe outside of your control. And everything's manageable, but when you're in the middle of running a company, it's hard to feel like what you're doing. And it's then therefore very hard to feel like what you're doing and that it's correct. Really you only know that you did a good job when you're done.
It's all hindsight.
It's all kind of hindsight with one stage or the other. The whole journey is very fragile, and it really, like, my heart goes out to you. I can remember times when we had key clients that were showing signs of weakness, or we had just hired somebody new and we needed them to follow a plan, and we were maybe planning on, exploring a new vertical with a new type of client, and the early signs there weren't very positive or were mixed relative to the bread and butter. You just try a lot of things, and I know that feeling well. There's a little bit of panic that sets in when things don't go according to plan. I mean, Harris, the sneakers?
Oh yeah, I was gonna touch base on that. So I tried something and I failed very quickly and drastically. But the hardest part was, once I'd failed, going back to the people who knew me and kind of living with, oh yeah, I tried this and it totally did
Harris,
not work
how are those
out.
shoes coming along?
And I'll be like, they're not. Not doing that.
Did you find that you were harder? You were way harder on yourself than anyone else could have been.
Right. I think, I was very hard on myself afterwards. A little bit of a depressive moment there.
It's embarrassing.
It's
too,
embarrassing.
Right?
So I was wondering how you handled it yourself.
Right. All the stages, No, there's a huge embarrassment factor. Depression may not be the right word, but you feel like you let other people down. For me, it's about letting people down, especially the clients that were with me from the beginning. That's what hurt me the most. Is like, this is the place that they have poured themselves into. They've, financially, CrossFit's not cheap, right? And so they paid money. They paid good money for a long time because they believed in what I was doing. And then to turn that around and say, well, I failed you. That was the hardest thing for me, in all of that. And so that's still something that I struggle with.
How'd they respond?
Positively, obviously.
Like, what does that mean? Positively? Like, oh man, it's okay. Like you're doing the good things. Like, you gave it a good shot. Like, what does positively mean?
They were upset. They were upset because they lost something that they loved. But at the end of the day, they're on Team John.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that is, because they didn't just buy into the gym. They bought into me and what I was doing. Right. And so that's another aspect of it is the fact that you have people that actually believe in you as a person, regardless of whether or not they're paying you money for a service. Right. And so after the fact, you realize that people are actually in your corner. I think that helped me a lot, just understanding that people still believe in me, whatever I'm doing. Right. And so having that experience, that entrepreneurial experience, for better, for worse, I think was, we talked about my lack of education, kind of was my education, at the time, because, I learned so much about every aspect of business because you have to.
Yeah.
And, not just that, but you learn so much about yourself and what you're capable of. And, the early mornings, the late nights, and then the extra work you put in just to sorry guys, I'm just super popular. The extra work you put into the gym or the business itself, so that some little aspect of it can be better, right? You nitpick on every little piece of it, and you take ownership of it because it's yours. And having that experience kind of prepares you for whatever's going to come your way, because like that was some tough stuff.
Yeah.
Like getting in the minutia of everything. And then now having the ability to take that experience and find that it's transferable to a lot of other areas, I think was the biggest takeaway for me in all of that.
Was there a surprise amount of joy, may not be the right word, but maybe depth or richness in the relationships when you were having those sorry guys conversations with your clients and friends?
Yeah, I think those came later. At first, it was a lot of embarrassment, so you're clouded by that. And then you have some conversations after the fact where they're like, "Hey, you need to take a step back and look at what you did. Like, you changed. Like, you had the ability to change some people's lives, not just because they're off of pre-diabetes medicine. They're not just because they've lost, in some cases 100 pounds, whatever. It's really
no big deal. Like life changing.
Like, those are physical changes, but I think it's more important that you get a takeaway. It's like the relationships that we've built, the relationships that we've had, and that between people at the gym too, that we've kind of connected people on. The footprint that we leave is a lot bigger than what we realize. When you're in a relationship-driven business like that, and really every business is relationship-driven, and you can call it business or not business, it doesn't matter. I think that the power of relationships is real, and I think that this endeavor helped me realize that in ways that I didn't know existed. And I think that's my biggest takeaway from this, because we call it a failure. I have gone full circle on this, and I don't believe it was a complete failure, just because of the conversations I've had with people after the fact. Helped me kind of realize that. It took me out of that, depression or whatever you want to call the sadness
sadness.
The overwhelming grief that happens because it's like you're losing a loved one almost, because it's just something that you've poured yourself into for so long. But
so now it's been 6 months since gyms have been closed, due to COVID. Some are opening up in weird ways, with some safety involved. What are you doing now?
I actually work. I work for Mark's dad right now and his brothers, and we another startup, an oil and gas startup. It's a non-operated startup, and we have acquired quite a bit of interest in Oklahoma, sold down at a fortunate time so that I'm still, employed. And then now we're just trying to buy producing assets in any basin.
So you're going through the success of the gym. You're going around the corner. You're going through the failure of the gym. You're going through the cleanup from the gym in terms of relationships and in terms of your life and your connection. You start to kind of build and look at it now as a part of your life retrospectively. Do you do it again?
100%.
Woo! Love that. 100%.
Why?
I wouldn't be prepared for anything right now that I feel like I'm prepared for, which is everything. I think it's prepared me for whatever life can bring towards me, good or bad. I've dealt with the bad.
It's not that scary.
It's not that scary, and it's you can overcome it. And you have, and when you really dive into any kind of business, and I keep coming back to relationships, but the relationships you build on the way doing that are so valuable. I'm not just speaking from a selfish point of view, but the idea that, you have the ability to add value to other people, and you understand what it can add value to other people, from any perspective. I think that I would do it again, like in a heartbeat, just because of the relationships and just because of the learning experience from it, where you build a lot of grit. And I think that's as an entrepreneur, there's a different kind of level of grit than you could experience than as an employer ever, just because you own it and you care about it like you own it. Like I said, when I lost the gym, it felt like, like you're losing a loved one almost. Not to speak like,
but it is like your baby.
Dramatically, yeah.
So
yeah. So yes, 100% do it again. I mean, no doubt in my mind.
What do you say to the guy that's listening to this podcast on the way to work, or maybe he's, in a similar situation to you? His business he started has gone through COVID. It's been a little rough, and he's asking himself lots of deep, dark questions. Yeah. Like, what do you say to him or her? Yeah,
don't let fear guide your decision making. You can't make fear-based decisions, and risk weighted. Yes, you want to be. But you don't want to say, well, this is too scary to do, so I can't do it. I think if you, like you say, be somebody, like if you just like pull up your britches and you get to work on something that you really actually care about, you're going to be happy with the results regardless of what they are.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
That's if you commit to it. Like if you go in something halfway, then
you're going to see halfway.
You're going to see half results. Even if you find a little bit of success, you're not going to be nearly. It's not going to be nearly as fruitful as if you put on your work boots and get after it, whatever that looks like.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yeah. But yeah.
Geez, John, that's a lot of deep thoughts. I feel like if John Candy were alive, he should narrate this.
I don't know about that. I'm not going to be the deepest of thinkers here, but
if you throw your keys in a river of molten lava, man, they're gone. But all other things that he said so eloquently in that book. I don't know if you guys knew that, but John Candy wrote this great book of truisms.
I didn't know that.
I didn't read it.
Neither did anyone else that listens to your show. But
you could just repurpose them as your own now. That's
hashtag, theft.
That's what he reads when he has steak with ketchup. That's what he does.
Oh, straight to the heart.
Well, thank you guys for listening. This has been another episode of Risk Profile with John Simmons and Mark and Harris. Please leave a review, and we do read them. We do read them, especially if they're funny. Thank you.
All right, guys, success or fail, be someone.